we are going to get started. And Karisma, please let us know about these pieces that we have here in front of us, starting with Untitled.
Yeah, those are mixed media works representing landscapes. There are a few more abstract works, and then we move more into, I wouldn't say realism, but you kind of more understand what's going on. But I want to say something about the paper that I use when creating this sort of works. Right, I tend to use the papers that wouldn't be that suggested for the mediums. You probably guys know that there are different types of paper, especially when you move towards oil or acrylics, because there are papers that can hold more water or more oil. So I tend to use just the paper that I like in terms of textures, depending on what I want to represent, and I mix them. So most of the papers that I use weren't designed for oils, linseed oil or water and acrylics. It creates some sort of artifacts on the paper, and it allows me to create some sort of depth. And it's funny to see how during the year or even the upcoming days, how the paint reacts to it, because it cracks sometimes. Like oil put on acrylics, it usually cracks for me, probably because of the air and different reasons, but it creates an unique effect that I really like. So starting by this particular one, it's tons of different mediums. It was charcoal on the base. Then we have oil pastels, oil painting, and acrylics. You probably see all the movements in all the pieces, and they are created by different types of palette knife. I tend to scratch even with my fingers or scratch with actually everything that I have in hands. So, so glad that Jules received this work, which he collected. And you probably noticed the fact that it's cracked, the paint is cracked. That's why I tend to frame them as soon as I get them done. So, yeah, and I'd say something about it as well. It's funny because as you can see, there's this gray color on top of the green, and it was just painted. All the paints that I used for create previously paintings that I got mixed up, and it created this sort of green. And then I've used a palette knife to just put it on top of the painting. It created some sort of dark tones. So basically, you feel like it's in front of you. We know that the more we distance ourselves from the subject, it gets lighter because of the atmosphere. And that's how I created this sort of depth. It was already like a really three-dimensional, but adding this sort of depth in front of us really made the works, I think, unique. I love the way it looks this way. So we can proceed. We have this one. As I say, the Jules collected it. It's funny because I've used just a few tones, and the perspective and also the movement of the clouds allowed me to create some sort of perspective. It's not the easiest thing to do when you use a limited palette. But it works. It works nice. What you will notice, even in the pieces that we will look at later, you will probably notice how good are the values. Like you can turn them black and white, and you will see that they still works. So they are not about the colors, but about the composition and the values. These are art fundamentals that needs to be studied. So good like Casino Mountain, exactly, yeah. Basically, it's um, like I don't know. It's more. It's not about the landscape itself. It's more about a sentiment that I was feeling while creating it. That's why you can see like the snow, as you said, but also the waves and also the clouds, everything falling down into the perspective point in the middle. So yeah, thank you,
Yeah,
Otis. I'm so glad
I
you
had
like it.
a I had a question about some of this work. Um,
Yeah.
and I know you feel tons of emotions when you're creating these pieces. I'm sorry, but how do you hope that people feel, or what do you want them to think about when they see kind of your abstract works?
That's a nice one. Because I generally don't think about the audience when I'm creating. It's just me when I create, and that's why also many of these works I have made them like probably I say 3-4 months ago, especially these ones, the first two, and I haven't posted them yet because it's not about the audience; it's about creating them for the sake of doing so, and I just enjoy the act of creating. So the way people are gonna perceive that, well, I don't know, but I try to help them with the title sometimes, but I leave some untitled just because I don't have the name for it basically, but sometimes it's just to let them decide what it's all about. Um, I'm so glad that, like the guy that say so good like as no mountain. That's what it sees. So it makes me happy. It worked.
Yeah, that's a great answer. Yeah, sometimes, people want their audience to feel a certain way when they look at their artworks that they create. And sometimes, like yourself, you don't create it for the audience. You kind of don't think about that at all when creating a piece. It's interesting.
Yeah, basically it. Um, so moving forward, we have also this one, but um, same mood. Then we have this wall of love. It's the title of the works. Yeah, you did the correct questions to me because this work it's called Wall of Love, and that's the questions that I want to ask you. What's the love in this piece? Like the mountain or the water? It goes a lot into philosophy. Uh, it can be the water that can destroy the rocks, or it can be the rock that resists the water. So it depends a lot on the viewer side.
I really like that interpretation of it, and I think it could personally be both rather than just one or the other. Love to
Yeah,
hear your thoughts on it.
yeah. I feel like yeah. I don't want to suggest what it is for me, but I'd say that this work, Wall of Love, it's about interpretation. So it depends a lot on the viewer's eye, and that's what makes it special. This one is I haven't posted it yet, but as you can see, it's thick paintings, thick mediums. There's tons of acrylics and tons of oils. The whites that you guys see, it's oils. I tend to create the atmosphere with the acrylics because they are kind of flat and they dry fast. And then I add multiple layers of oils to create the depth. So what you see in front of you, in general, sometimes it's oil because of the way I can create some sort of thick impasto, you know?
I wanted to ask you, we're looking at a lot of seascapes here now. What initially drew you to creating seascapes?
Probably the connection that I have with water. The fact that I've been studying a lot of effects that vibration has on us as souls. Um, we are made of water, basically, and it's so important for me to represent water, the movement of the water, because it's also the movement that we do. Everything, it's a big metaphor of the ocean and the sea. It can be. So that's why I felt so connected. Every time I see a seascape, somehow I feel connected to it. The way the waves move, and also depends on a lot of factors. The way that the waves reflects the lights and the shadows as well. The way you can create colors to you can add colors to the water just by maybe by sampling, I'd say. I don't know if it's a correct word to say, the color of the sky and the clouds and everything around it. There's a lot of potential in creating seascapes, not just because of the depth, but also because of the movement, and also because of the color scheme that you can achieve. So that's why you see tons of different colors. You see maybe just a little bit of splats of green, or maybe of red or blue, but you can basically add pretty much everything as long as it's coherent with the scene. And yeah, also I just mentioned the movement. If you can, guys, look at this one, the middle, it's called a big wave, a general big wave. Which, if you can flip your head upside down, it still works. It's still a big wave. It was meant to be like upside down, but I felt like adding these colors on top, like the blues and the black, on the lower part of it, really made it works this way. I like it more this way. But if you can upside down it, maybe I've posted it so you can guys see it upside down. But yeah, you will feel the movement on both sides, and that's what I mean when I say that it's so important to create some sort of movement. Also the balance, as you can see, where there is more colors on top right. As you can see, there's a lot of blue on top right. The big wave crash on the lower part left. So that's what makes it a nice composition. And where's there this little orangey or pinky, on the opposite part there's this blue that you can see on top left. Also this part, the lower part, right down part, it's kind of super dark, but there's a little bit of brush strokes of white, which it balances, and it balances really well with the big wave. And there we have this one. It was probably one of my very first landscapes that I did with mixed media. As you can see, it's more insecure, I'd say, because it's not flat, because there are different values on like leaning towards ours and leaning forward. But it's a nice work because of the colors. I love to mix red and green together, and it kind of worked. A nice way that painters from the past, like old masters, used it to create the gray by mixing red and green. That was one of the ways. So that's why I've used the red and the green, and there's a lot of gray, because I've created this gray by using the red and green and a little bit of white, of course, or black to tone it down. But basically that's it. That's just a little bit of color mixing to create something. And it's important. Like Delacroix used to do that a lot. You can see a nice warm gray by mixing the red and the green. Depends a lot on the red or the green, but basically that's it.
Yeah, I wanted to ask one question. Could you kind of describe your creative process for when you're making a seascape piece? Like, how do you like to capture the essence of the sea in your work?
Yeah. Um, we will see that probably when we'll turn into the other side of the wall. But when I create something like this, I try to just lay down with a little bit of charcoal the general lines, the perspective lines, and general notes about the value. So I can imagine in my head a little bit how it's going to be in terms of composition and values. So I know what's going to be the subject and what's going to be on the foreground, what's going to be in the background. So for this particular piece, you can see, because I scrap a lot with the palette knives, I also many times I ruin the paints on top, but I try to use a little bit of I'd say orange. It's not orange. It's burnt sienna to just tone the paper, so we have already a little bit of mood. And I tend to let it up with white or tone it down with a little bit of brown, Bandic brown, or maybe a little bit of black. And then I start putting the most liked value, like the whitest part of the paint, because from that specific point of white, I can create the various tones and the various scales of colors. So it helps to create this way in terms of values and shapes, especially. So for this wave, for example, I created the darkest part first. So I knew what was going to be the darkest part, which is not always black. We can see that in this piece. There's no black at all. But yeah, generally starting with the wettest tone or the darkest tone, it helps.
Yeah, thank you for answering that. I do know we're about halfway through the 1 hour mark. For anybody that's just joining in, I do have the link pinned at the top for the in-world gallery. Make sure you hop in there with us. Just a little reminder for everybody. But yeah, please continue. I want to make sure that we're able to touch on all the pieces in here. So
yeah, the proceeding, we have a little more of cityscapes, but what's funny, it's the fact that they are vertical. So when we look at as a landscape in general or a seascape, so sorry, Tony, can you mute yourself, please, because yeah, thank you. I was hearing myself. But yeah, when we look at a landscape, we tend to look at it in real life. I mean, we tend to look at it horizontally, you know. And I feel like that that's how we look at nature in general. Like by looking at a landscape, we look at it horizontally, but it works different with people. We look at them upside down. Sorry, not upside down, but in a vertically manner, you know. So creating a landscape in a vertically orientation, it creates some sort of different effects that wouldn't be that good and possible probably to achieve in a horizontal landscape. So for example, these ones are waves. This one is more abstract. It's vertical. There are two mountains, and in the middle I created the landscape. Sorry, the seascape. There were waves and stuff, but they created by using a vertical orientation. I created some sort of movement of waves coming right in front of us. So it works both ways. And I put this piece on here because it's a nice comparison. As you can see, the wave on here is coming at us because it's vertical, and the other waves are moving differently because it's horizontal. Same thing for this. Those are other waves, more abstract, tons of oil paintings, but yeah, they horizontal, and doesn't work the way I wanted to. If I wanted to represent them vertically, they work different.
Are you able to hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you, is there any of the particular seascapes here that you've created that kind of hold a special meaning for you?
I love them all, actually. Probably the fact that they are so different, even if they represent the same subject, nature. Probably it's because of that. I just love the fact that they look so different from each other. Might be the composition and also the color schemes, but I just love them the way they are, and I love them all because the way they are. I wouldn't fix or change a single thing of them. I usually create them alla prima, like in a single session, because I love to work wet on wet and see the artifacts creating while I create. So they represented a mood in the moment, so I wouldn't change them.
And do you create a lot of these like in your room? Where do you kind of grab your inspiration from when putting it on the canvas?
Yeah, a few of them are actually from real life. I did a bunch of I'd say excursion to seascapes towards lake. We have tons of lake in Italy which are really beautiful, and I sketched them down, took a photograph, so I had a general information about the values, and then worked them at home. But I'd say there are a couple that I haven't used them yet on here. Probably this one, but yeah, there are from imagination. It's just laying down some perspective, imagining there's a mountain on the foreground and tons of waves in the foreground, and working.
I love that approach, and I really like the titles that you always have on your pieces. I'm looking at "The Waves Are Screaming Your Name." Is there any meaning that you try to incorporate when you're naming your pieces?
Yeah, as I said previously, it might be because I want to kind of suggest a mood to the people, or probably because it was what I was feeling at the moment. This one was collected by Luca Ponsato, and I think it's all its value and its meaning because of the specific thoughts that I had while I was creating it. I had a specific person in my mind at the moment, and creating it, I was thinking at their name. So that's what led me to put the title, basically.
So we have "Fell for Love" again. I feel like a lot of your seascapes have a very romanticized feeling to them. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, totally agree.
They seem to be a lot more calmer and less aggressive than, for example, your portrait artworks. It's like you're at peace.
Oh yeah.
When you're working on your seascapes, or I also see that in your flowers as well too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's, I don't know, probably because they lack of the expression of a face, but you should probably see mine while I created them. But in general, yeah, the title tends to soften them up because there's some sort of romantic approach to them. Even when I lay down the colors, there's some sort of dance between me and the colors that happens. So which it's completely different, as you say, from my portraits, because usually they are or monochrome So they are full of marks instead of filling the wallpaper with color. So it completely changed the approach. So yeah, you caught it.
Are there any other pieces on this wall that you wanted to talk about before we kind of transition into those portraits that we see here?
No, I think we can talk about the portrait.
I noticed the very first one here on this poll in the middle. We've got "Am I Lost" here.
Yeah,
Anything you want to say about this one? These are all mainly these are all from I think they're Birds and Worms series. There's a couple that
yeah,
weren't in there, but we could get to those later. But yes, let's
yeah.
start here.
Yeah, generally talking about this series of works, they are made in white charcoal on black paper, which it was new for me because I always try to tone my own my papers, but I was having fun with sanguine and different mediums, and I had this white charcoal that wasn't really working with with toned paper. So I had to get a dark one, and I did this series of works basically probably in the same week, I'd say. They are quick, they are fast. The paper, sadly, it's too thin, and that's a problem because it cannot hold the charcoal really well. The charcoal is dust basically, and if the paper is too thin, it can't hold that much. So it's kind of tough to create some sort of depth because you cannot create layers of charcoal, especially with this sort of paper that I used. So as you can see, there are tons of marks, which are really, really, really white, and there's a lot of gray. And basically, you work the opposite way as you do with a white paper and a black charcoal. You try to lay down the general shapes with white, and then you erase. You try to work like a sculpture. Instead of adding, you basically lay down all the white that you need, and you start erasing parts, and you create the facial features and stuff.
Mm. I really like how it kind of looks like so old school, like it's almost on a chalkboard from like back in the days that
Yeah.
it still has that erase marks on it. And you're talking about how that charcoal is really hard to work with, and it doesn't let you get too much depth, but I think it kind of creates a new value in the artwork itself like that.
Yeah, definitely. Also, it's you can't create that much of depth, especially if you try to work fast, as I do. So you need to invent something when blending the various shades of the work. So you can use the stamp tool. You can use your fingers. You can use towel, different stuff that can create textures and shades. So that's the power of creating charcoals because it's all about the expressions. So
What would you say is the most interesting tool that you've used on one of these pieces? And also, how long does it take you to just create one of these, just a portrait on average?
talking about this sort of portraits, like with charcoal, I'd say not more than 30 minutes. As soon as I lay down the main shapes and I do my measurements about facial features, I'm done. Like I tend to be kind of slow at the very beginning, but as soon as I have the main shapes, the main values, it goes fast from there. Because then I try to complete the work by adding marks that helps with the composition. As you can see from this work, imagine that without the marks that you see at the top, like the sort of, I don't know, scratches that you see in white. For me, it wouldn't be possible to imagine this work without them. That's the sort of things that you learn while you create. So it takes I'd say not a lifetime, but it takes a lot of time to reach the level where you add marks to create a composition. But it's not that tough to create and have the values and the proportions right.
And sometimes looking at your artworks, I feel like the subjects are from a much earlier point in time. Like this one looks to me, You Left Me Here looks to me like it could be like a United States president from the 1800s, personally to me. But
Oh
I
yeah.
wanted to know, like, how do you choose your subjects in your portraits?
Uh, Usually, I tend to look at the references with the idea that I have in mind already. So I try to search for images with the values that I need in terms of dark tones and white tones. And by that, depending on the amount of dark spots or white spots, I decide to work or on a black paper or on a white paper.
Got you. Thank you for sharing. And then I know that to the right of You Left Me Here, we have one titled Stop Stare, which is, also your Twitter name and your profile picture. Does this one
Yeah.
have kind of like a special meaning to you? Could you dive in on this one a little bit more?
Not really. It's fun because it was my first attempt at using white charcoal on paper. This one was my really first attempt, and sadly, I wasn't recording the process, but I did for all the others. But probably special because it was the first one. But yeah, maybe I also like it particularly because of the angles of the face. It's kind of looking down to up. So probably because of that. But
And I
yeah,
also noticed a lot of, detail in this one. There's a lot of elements. You really fill up the whole page. Did
yeah.
you kind of like, how has your style in portraits evolved over time using this particular medium at least? Because I see some of the ones to the left and right of it, they aren't as filled. Did you take a more minimalistic approach as you kind of went on with these?
Yeah, I think it works for many artists, but they don't know yet about it because it's something that you learn during the years. The more you're insecure about the works, you tend to add more elements to it. Okay, so as I say, this one was the first portrait that I ever created, and I added a lot of elements because I was so insecure about the medium. I never tried before the white charcoal on black paper, and I noticed immediately that it was super thin and hard to build layers. So there's also a technique to build layers that I will explain later. But as you can see, then I started doing and like adding less elements because I was all about the expression, as you can see from the first one that we've seen here, and also this one, and also this one, and also this one. Just a few lines on the background to create some sort of interesting elements to look at. But yeah, this one, the first one, it's kind of I don't know, it's just a face on the middle of the paper. And that's it. I was really feeling confident about the medium in that exact moment. So that's why there are less elements. It was all about the expressions. So you can see a lot of expressions in here, but a lot of elements because of my insecurity about the medium.
Gotcha. It makes sense since, it being your first one for you to be insecure about that. But thank you for sharing that insight. Really interesting, sharing that story on adding more elements to your artwork if you feel insecure about it. Really
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah. Also, there's a little tip that I want to to give it to the listeners. If you feel like you can't build layers, especially with dry medium, like pastels or charcoal, you can try to apply fixative on your paper, and from there you should be able to add a little bit of more depth and layers. But it depends a lot on the paper and the medium, but generally it works.
What would you say is your favorite medium to work on? I mean, you have such a range that you work with.
It depends. Depends a lot on the way I feel, and I don't know. Yeah, I say it depends a lot on how I feel, but sometimes I feel like I want to move more, so I use oil. But sometimes I feel like I want to keep in mind a certain feeling or something like it, and I just stick with a single medium, like a dry one. At the moment, I'm just working on studies. I'm just working on anatomy and values and those things. I'm not really painting. Last time I painted was like probably a couple of months ago. I'm just sticking with drawing and learning more about the fundamentals of it, and we will see. We will see. I'm excited to see the future portrait that I will create with the knowledge that I have now and all the skill that I'm developing at the moment. So I'm now loving using the pencils.
Yeah, I saw from our video the other day that you had quite a few different pencils you were using, and then you told me this morning that you're working on, a foot study. Is there any
Yeah.
alpha you want to share for any maybe upcoming collections that you have that you're maybe working on?
Don't know about the collections because, as I said, I never create thinking about how I'm gonna monetize the work that I have in front of me. But the studies are really important, not just for the artists, but even for the collectors, because you can see the development and also the approach and some insights. Because when you collect sketches and studies, you can probably see on the left or the right or top on the lower part of the page some sort of notes, that the artist wrote down. Like I love the studies, the unfinished looks of things, because of that. Because you can see really also the skill, but the movement. It works really well with just a few lines, and it's super tough to create studies that they are, in a way, I don't know, like pleasant to look at. That you have some sort of fun to look at. It's tough, but it was allow you to create better works in the future. It's something that you need to work on a lot.
Gotcha. That makes sense. Makes sense. Do you want to touch on any of the other portraits on this wall before we move on? Because I'm just being conscious of time here. I know we're coming up on the hour here.
Yeah. No, I'm fine. I'd like to dive more into other works, so we are free to move from here.
Yeah, let's go on to the other side of the wall here. We have more portraits. We have the Destiny you took from me. This is from your case series on Super Rare.
Yeah. I don't want to spend too much time on them. I just wanted to showcase different ranges of works and approaches. And I'd say that I cover them quickly. Like this one, the one that you mentioned, it's just digital. And there are a few textures on top of it that I personally scanned. So that's what I meant previously when I said that I love to mix the medium, And then we have this one, the orange and green one, that was about the color combination. I'm gonna say a fun thing that I think it is also can help people. I have this little book with a combination of colors that works really well for some reason, and they are inspired by the colors of kimono, from the Oriental culture and Japanese culture, to be precise. And yeah, it kind of this book kind of showcases a bunch of color combination that can work really well on a kimono. And I've used the same colors for a painting, and it worked.
What book is this that you're speaking of?
I don't know how to, because the title is in Japanese.
So you don't even know the name of it.
I feel like I can translate that, but there are a couple of them actually that you can that you can browse through, and they really show a lot of different combination of colors that you wouldn't think at, but they work. Of course, you need to be coherent with the scene that you have. It's true that I used green for the hair and the orange background, which is kind of hard to find in real life, but it works because I haven't exaggerated with the color scheme. There are really few colors, but they are toned in different ways. And this one, it's oil pastels. There are slightly mixed colors with my fingers, but these are just the colors of the pastels. This one, I haven't posted that yet, but I have it framed in my home. And this particular piece, this charcoal one, it's made just with my fingers. I haven't used erasers. I haven't used any of the mediums like a pencil or something. It's just with my fingers in the compressed charcoal. It's like the charcoal dust, but it's called the pen pastel. I was just dipping my fingers into the dust, and I was just moving around the paper with my hand, having the idea of the portrait, but it's just my hand and nothing nothing more than that. It's just fingers. Then we have this acrylic one. You might think that there are different colors, or because you can see the purple or something, but not really. It's just a red and black and white. That's it. I was toning down some parts, and as you can see, the brightest part, of course, is in the eye. But as you can see, the light that the nose, it's gray, which it's not what I usually use for the whitest part of the painting. But just because it wasn't the whitest part of the painting, it was the brightest. It was just a bright part, but not white. The white was reserved just for a tiny bit of details in the eyes, but yeah.
And this is from your brainless collection, right?
No, I think it's birds and worms. This one, it got probably, yeah. I sold that privately to Safe Dave, which is an artist as well, a great one also. A great abstract artist. But yeah, generally the brainless works are the abstract that we are going to see later. So moving forward, I wouldn't spend too much time on the portrait anymore. This is an oil pastels, just showing the different palettes. As you can see, there's pink for the ears and just a little bit of white for the brightest parts, but nothing more, sorry. Those are the portraits. I just wanted to showcase different range of and mediums. So if you feel like I have questions about them and know how to apply them, just feel free to write down in the chat a comment, or just ask for the microphone and we will let you.
Yeah, please
And
don't be shy. Ask any questions that you have away in the gallery chat here, or even request to speak on Twitter. But
yeah,
yes, back on the poll here, we have another flower piece, and I believe this is one of your additions, right?
yeah, exactly. This one, it's digital and traditional paper scanned, and it was probably the last works that I did digital about flowers. Because as we can see here, I moved with traditional mediums. This one was super fun to create with. For some reason, I don't know why, I've used alcohol on the paper because I tried to do the backing with soft pastels, but because you can create some sort of nice wash when you use soft pastels and alcohol, you can use the brush, and immediately a dry media becomes a wet medium like I'd say acrylics. So this edition was fun to make. I like the colors, but this one was way more interesting to create. It's more abstract, of course, but you can see the general shapes of the flowers, especially the title, allow you to imagine them more clearly. And tons of different colors. I don't know why. I was just scrapping the paper, removing paints, adding paints, trying with different mediums. There are some sort of oil pastels in here as well. So yeah, this one a special piece because it was traded to Alpha Centauri Kid. The fact that he reached out to me about this piece is crazy. I can see why. I love that. I love that as well. But it's in good hands, I think. And
Yeah, and you had told me that you guys did a trade for this, which I thought was just so cool that he sent you an artwork, you sent him an artwork.
yeah, I have one of his works now.
How did that
Yeah.
come about?
I think like he was in love with the flowers that I was creating at the time, and he just reached out to me saying, "Hey, I did these flowers. Do you want to trade?" And I said yes. That's it. It was fast. It was just a couple of messages, and we knew each other. Me and Alpha Centauri Kid. We were interacting in the timeline, but we had this conversation and we traded works. And I'm so glad this work is in good hands. Um,
I think that Jules had wanted to come up and ask you a question.
yeah.
I'm seeing him as a listener on my end, but he says he's a speaker. Are you able
Okay.
to speak? I
Yeah, I
can hear
do. I
you,
do.
Jules.
Hmm. Well, I love different approaches to art, especially music and cinema. That's why I have strong opinions and harsh opinions on music and cinema that for some reason goes viral and stuff like that. And so I'm not that interested in creating with one of those mediums, but I love to feed my mind with them. The thing that I used to do back in the days was editing videos because I love to mix music with paintings and in general with animations and stuff like that. I love the way music can work really really well with us as souls. Also, Kandinsky used to write about it in his books. Uh, Music and visual creations can both dance really well together. So yeah, it's true that I'm prolific, but it's probably because I wouldn't say stuck, but I'm invested into this sort of visual creation. But definitely music and cinema really have a huge impact on me on a daily basis.
Yeah, you play piano, don't you, Charisma?
Oh yeah, I did. I did like for I say a couple of years, something like that. And for some reason, I was really good at it. I took lessons as soon as I noticed that I was into something because I was able to kind of play the music I was listening to kind of automatically. And I wasn't really able to read the notes on the paper. I just used to vibe and create and just uh, I don't know, for some reason I was good at it. Then I got bored because my instructor told me that I needed to do some sort of exam in front of examinators to then level up my lessons, dive more into academic things and compositions. And I wasn't really enjoying that. So I quit just before the exam and never touched the piano again.
Yeah, that's such a sad ending. Are you ever gonna get back into it? We can move back into the flowers after this. I just wanted to kind of
Yeah, no,
get into
yeah, no, you're right. Hmm, no, I don't think so. Now I like guitar more, like electric guitar. I listen a lot of Muse, and I just enjoy to look at people playing the guitar. But yeah, of course, on a daily basis, I listen also to a lot of classical music. Liszt, Chopin, and Rachmaninoff are my favorites, and they did a lot of compositions with piano. So yeah, I love them. But no, I don't think I will practice piano anymore.
might just not be in the cards. Well, you can never say never. You never know. Maybe you'll be back
No,
into.
yeah, no, you're right. You're right.
But anyways, back on the flowers. Can you kind of walk us through your creative process when you begin a new floral piece? Is there any particular way that you choose the subjects in these pieces?
uh, it all starts with the orientation of the paper. I decide if I want to work horizontally or vertically. From there, um, I create the mood in terms of colors. Um, from the works that you can see here, there are no. I mean, there's a black flower, which you don't see really often in nature, and usually it's not a good thing when you see it. And also these ones are wet on wet, so it was impossible for me to build layers. But you can see the brush strokes that kind of represent the flowers and nature. So I don't know much about the things that I had in mind when I start creating them, but they usually come as soon as I lay down the general colors. I start to see something on the paper, and I works around the things that I see. I don't work on the things that I see. I work around them. So I create a scene about the things that I already see, and from there it creates a whole scenario. That's it.
Are there any sort of techniques or mediums that you prefer when creating with flowers?
Uh, for the nature of flowers, that they kind of die pretty quickly if you don't take care of them in a proper manner. So they goes really fast. I try to use the fastest medium that I have. So I sketch them with charcoal, which is super fast to do. And then I don't like to build too many layers, so I just stick with oils. I use a lot of linseed oils, so it become really, really, really wet, and I start from there. I just work fast, create visible brush strokes, so they create movement, and that's it.
Hmm. And it's really interesting how you kind of work. You choose the layout first,
Yeah.
horizontal or vertical. Do you try to show a certain feeling or idea when creating with your flower?
I think they work different from seascapes because, of course, there are an incredible amount of types of flowers in nature, but I don't know all of them. it works different from the ocean. There's just a type of waves, that there are waves, but I don't know if you know what I mean. It's all the same. From flowers works different. From nature in general, when it comes to living thing, it works different. So I tend to rely more on the colors instead of the movement. As you can see, they are pretty stiff. It's just a snapshot of the mind, while it works different from the seascapes, that they are more alive, I'd say.
And so you obviously have like a good connection with nature. Is there any kind of experiences that kind of influenced your connection with flowers?
Not with flowers particularly, but in general, nature. I mean, we are ruled by the law of nature, and by laws in general that we don't see. For example, gravity. So I'm stick to nature. I'm stick to what's alive and what's bigger than me. So that's why I'm so moved about the people and nature and all the things. I'm not that interested in things created by humans. For example, I'm not into architecture. I mean, I love to look at architecture. For example, brutalism, or I've been in Rome a few months ago and I was shocked about it. But yeah, I feel like I'm more interested about the things that we cannot create. No
I
one
really
ever.
like that perspective, actually. Yeah.
Yeah, we are not able to create a single living thing by ourselves, like in a laboratory. We cannot. And that's what inspired me. That's what really amazed me. So when I create something like the flowers, I feel instantly connected with them for this particular reason. I'm kind of devoted to nature.
And do you kind of maybe do any activities or work on projects that kind of relate to protecting the environment, or is there any ways that you try and be sustainable with your art?
No, not really. I just enjoy nature and I respect nature, so I just don't throw around things that I use in the woods or stuff like that. I just respect nature. But I don't work particularly on preserving the environment. I do what I can, and
Right.
I don't do what I should, and what also a child know that it's not good. For example, throwing around things. But yeah.
Beautiful. But I see you turning the corner here. Did you want to move on over to the next wall?
Yeah. I think like we can move into the abstract works.
Let's go.
And we are kind of done after that, but the abstract works really are so important for me.
This is my ego, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and they are kind of important for me for the view that I have on abstract painting, because many people feel like the abstract painting is just something abstract. Maybe it's abstract the way that you put down the shapes and the feelings, but they represent reality in the most beautiful manner. I feel like abstract is the closest thing to realism, because it's true that what you see here is abstract, but the feeling behind it wasn't. So that's what makes the work really, really, really realistic to me.
That's a really, really interesting approach. I want to dive into a little bit more about what inspires your abstract art. Can you kind of share the ideas or emotions that kind of kickstart a new piece for you?
Yeah, many times I got kind of tired of being so precise with anatomy studies and stuff. So Sometimes I feel like maybe I have less time, or I don't know. I feel like I want to throw throw colors into a paper and move them and create composition, instead of just sitting under a little light and with my pencil keep sharpening it and working on details. Sometimes it's just not boring, but maybe you're not into the correct mindset to do so. So sometimes I love to get my hands dirty with paint. I don't use any gloves. I move around the paper, the paint with my fingers. It's just something that I love to do. It's just like when you see a little kid exploring with colors and doing random shapes, and the kid has the most fun just because he's creating something, he's doing something with his hands, and and then you ask him what's that, and probably the kid say it's a tree, but you can't see the tree, but in his mind it's a tree. And that's why I say that abstract is the most realistic way to represent life and sentiments and feelings. So there are also works that represent like physical things, and I'm not that attached to objects, at all. As I say, I'm attached to nature, not to objects. Objects is something that I can accumulate, but they will not change me in any way. But the feelings that I learned, that I study, the things that I study, the things that I learn, they what really move me. So I get inspired also by the things around me. So, for example, this work, it's called Uppercut for a reason. That's what I imagine is to receive an uppercut, probably because of the colors and the movement all around, and the black shape in the middle. It's the punch. And it was made. This work was actually a composition study. As you can see, there are colors that are not really mixed together. On top left, you see the orange, then you see the black, then you see the yellow, then you see the black, then you see the green, then you see the orange, then you see the black again. It's just stains of colors, but not mixed together. You can see a little bit of blue that gets into a lighter tone, but that's because of the white that kind of contaminate everything that it touch. So it's all about the composition sometimes, and then I get idea after the works it's done about what might representing.
Do you feel as your abstract artworks are on the longer range of creating, when you create art pieces, do they take longer than, say, your other works?
Oh yeah, definitely.
How long would you say you spend on creating an abstract?
The fact is that I don't like to finish a work in different days. It depends a lot on the work. Sometimes I just lay down the general shapes and the composition, but I tend to finish it as soon as I can, as soon as I lay down the first brush stroke. So it doesn't mean it takes me a small amount of time, because it can take up to 12 hours in a day. And it happens. It happened to me with this piece in the middle. I was keep removing parts with the palette knife and reapply them in different spots, and so on. And I did that for many hours, especially because the colors were kind of mixing together. They were losing their shiny look that I love about oils. So I was keep removing them, even if the composition was already laid down. So they definitely take me more time and more um, like I don't know how to say that. Um, I tend to be more harsh about them
Mm,
because I have in mind an idea, because when you see on a reference like a foot or something, you already know what it's gonna be when it's gonna be finished. You know, your drawing. But when you start a concept that you have also only in your mind, it becomes really difficult to finish it and get close to what you have in mind. So that's why it takes a lot of time to do so.
right, and that's really cool how you have kind of your set method, and you try and finish a piece in what day in one day, right? Um,
Yeah.
when have you ever been, kind of you kind of said you have with this piece in front of us, but when you get stuck while working on a piece, how do you find your way forward?
I just know that getting stuck is part of the process, and it always happen. Even with the easiest thing that you can draw, even with a circle, you can get stuck. Maybe for technical skills lacking, or for not being in the correct mood. Maybe you just received a bad news, or it can happen to get stuck. But uh, the more you create, the more you learn that you have to push through it. And there are moments where you can like really, really trash the paper, but the very second you overcome this feeling, it's when everything starts coming together. Not when you start, not when you finish, but in that specific time, when you overcome the feeling that you want to throw the paper away, it's when the worst you can consider it really done.
Mm, I like that. Are there any other pieces on this wall that you wanted to touch on?
Uh, no, they are just different mediums, like acrylics and oils. Nothing more than that. These are based on, just as you can see, just composition. The one in the middle, maybe it's more about energy, but because I can guarantee you the paper weighs a lot. Like it's tons of painting. It's really thick. Uh, but the other ones are just about the composition. uh, General brush strokes with big brushes and no details at all, just shades of colors, just composition. Yeah, we can look at this one. It's
This,
called
yeah, I was about to ask. We have silly symphonies here. I
yeah,
believe
yeah.
this is another edition of yours, right?
Hmm.
And with
Yeah,
the name, I'm feeling like you were very inspired by some sort of music on this one.
yeah. I suggest everyone to check the Silly Symphonies by Disney. They were like short animations movie, and I mean, I can't say much about them because they are just so perfect that I would ruin them just by mentioning them. So I suggest you to look at them. It was the best era for me, for Disney. They created this series of works, the beautiful animations called Silly Symphonies, and in the most famous one, you can see the skeletons dancing. As you can see, there's a skeleton in here, and it's dancing. And I wasn't really able to create that in a monochrome way like the movie, so I've used the colors that I feel like they can be in a way attached to, I wouldn't say Halloween, but with a specific aesthetics.
I wanted to ask, has your approach to abstract, or maybe your style to abstract art, evolved over time?
Uh, that's a nice one. Regarding abstract, I don't know. because I just love the way abstract works look. I feel like they never die in a way, uh, because that's the best I could do at the moment. And maybe I can improve the composition and the colors, but that was my specific feeling at the moment. But it works different if we talk about the portraits, because there are a lot of aspects that I can improve. That's why I'm stuck with studies at the moment. Um, so I don't know if they evolved. Probably they did, but I don't know in which part.
Which one would you say is your earliest piece from all of these abstracts that we have in front of us? And which one would be your latest?
I feel like Meet My Ego. This one was the one of the earliest. As you can see, in this piece, there you can see the toned paper on the background. That's because I was laying down colors. I didn't like them, and just scraped them off and put them on top of on other parts of the paper, basically.
Very cool. Well, do we want to cover this wall here? I know we're coming up on an hour and a half in the space. I want to be conscious of time.
Yeah, not really. Maybe just this one, the one in the middle.
I love this piece. The colors here are beautiful. I really love the light blue background with the dark contrast in the middle.
Exactly. Like this work is fun. Has a nice story behind it, because I was really running out of watercolors for some reason. I had just a little tube of these colors of I'd say it was like light blue. So I laid down the watercolor, and then I was running completely ran out of watercolors. So basically I changed the medium while I was creating, and then I got stuck with black ink, Indian ink in the middle. The darkest part that you see is Indian ink, which is impossible to remove from the paper. So I went kind of on top with the colors when I felt like I wasn't really feeling the black. But as you can see, it's a nice composition. It's not much about the colors, because this one works really well in black and white. But yeah, it's about the composition. So yeah, I love them for this. I feel like we are done.
Yeah, this is a beautiful piece. Did you want to say? I really like Goodnight Moon as well. Not gonna lie, that one's a great one as well. I don't know if you wanted to talk about that one a little more, or if anybody. We could also invite people now, before you get into that piece. If anybody wanted to ask some questions, feel free to request before we wrap up the tour, or you could always do it in chat in World 2 for whoever's still in there.
Yeah.
We're going to be wrapping up soon, but yes, go ahead, Karisma.
Which one do you want to know about?
Oh, Goodnight Moon. With
yeah.
this ear that's just staring at me, and I wanted to know.
Yeah. Basically, this one, it was fun to create, because it's always this thing that I have to tone the paper, then lay down more colors, then scrub them away, then lay down more and scrub them. So as you can see, there's some sort of red coming from the background, and then a lighter tones of that red even in the background, more on the top. You can see that more on the top, it's lighter there. Because I tend to use just a single medium for my abstract works, except for example this one when I ran out of watercolor, or when I tone the paper. But the only possible way that I have to keep removing and adding colors, it's by using watercolors. So sorry, it's painting, my bad. Because they dry super slowly, so they allow me to kind of fix the things that I don't like. So about this one, it was a super red used in the background, and it was just too much. So I toned it down with a little bit of brown, and it gave a kind of warm look on some spots, like on the top left and in the middle, in the right, and also darker tones in the lower part, because it had the composition. I couldn't imagine that part, the lower part, being like super dark or green or red. I imagine it to be black, and it worked. Regarding the two colors that you can mainly see, which are that sort of flesh colors, like the color of the flesh, and that blue, just because they work good together. And I use the primary colors for this work, and they kind of always look good. It was just tough to create a composition with just two little subjects. As you can see, there are defining the shapes, the blue one and the yellow one. So it was kind of tough, and I had to work more on the texture, more on the layers, and that was the tough part, because when you have a subject that you're going to represent, that's it, that's the subject, and as soon as you finish it, you're finished with the work. But when you have kind of an abstract way to represent your feeling, you don't know really well when you're done. You just need to feel it, and I wasn't really feeling it, but so I had to push through the moment that I mentioned previously. That's how this work has been made.
Yeah, I love it. I also just love the range of colors. They're very visually appealing to me. But it doesn't look like we had any requests come in, unless my spaces is just rugged, which it very well could be. But I did want to just take the time to, say thank you so much, Karisma, for putting together this gallery and giving us this lovely gallery tour. You have such a range of art that we got to check out today. That was really pleasurable to see. And I guess before we wrap up, I just wanted to ask you one more question. I know you're probably sick of me asking you stuff.
No, absolutely.
But are there any future projects that you're excited about, or are there any new mediums or themes that you're planning to explore?
I cannot really wait to start back using paints, especially oils, because it's been a while. But I'm studying so hard drawings, so I don't see any particular projects coming unless I decide to do some sort of things with my sketchbooks. I'm filling sketchbooks, so maybe it might be interesting to, I don't know, release them in a way. I'm not sure about how and when, and because I keep working, so I keep improving, and I'm not really happy about the things that I did like a couple of weeks ago, but I was really proud of them as soon as I finished them. But now I look at them and I say I can do really better. So I'm reworking my old sketches to see the improvements. So yeah, probably it will be fun to maybe release them in a way, but at the moment I don't have any particular idea. I'm not worried, as I say, about that part of the creation. It's not part of the creation, the part of releasing them. So I don't think about them.
I got you. Well, I'll be on the lookout for sure. It's always fun revisiting old artworks and trying to improve upon them.
Yeah.
But yeah, thank you so much for the tour again. It was such a great time. Do you have anything that you wanted to say before we closed out?
No, nothing. Just want to thank the people that listened to me for an hour and a half.
Yes. Thank you to all of our listeners. So sorry that the space got rugged, I guess, in the beginning. I had no idea until Jules sent me a message.
Yeah, I didn't either. I was hearing you really well, but
apparently it was just us two. But yes, thank you so much for our listeners. Thank you for our great guest, Karisma. Thank you for actually, we do have a request from Otis. So let me bring Otis up here real quick before we ride out.
Yeah, it's rugged. I don't see any requests.
Maybe he had been requesting for a while and I couldn't see it. Yeah, Spaces is weird day, my friends. But what's up,
Yeah,
Otis? Welcome up.
welcome.
Hey, what's up? So I just want to come up. I'm Otis from Brazil. I'm an artist, and I've been following Karisma works for a few years now. And just want to say, like, it's really good to put a voice in a face in your works, right? Because I think I have never got the opportunity, like, to listen to you, so it's
Mhm.
really awesome. And I was in the full tour on Cyber, and it's really impressive. I think I've know like most of the works that are there, but it's nice to see like other styles too. And one cool thing that I just want to share, so it was really nice to listen to you because a lot of like technical stuff that you were saying, it was nice for me as a non-English like native speaker because I do know like these words in Portuguese, but like how you do like the pencils, like all of this more art technical stuff. So it actually added a lot to my art vocabulary. But I just want
Yeah,
to shout out. It was really nice. It was really awesome to hear more about you, about the pieces, and this full tour on Cyber. It was really cool.
thank you so much for browsing through the gallery and listening to me. I'm so glad it helped you, and it was one of the meaning I decided to do. One of the reason I decided to do this space because I knew that the 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 creation and the use of the materials were interesting for artists. So I'm so glad you found that interesting enough to browse through, and I'm glad it helped you in a way.
Yeah, Otis, thank you so much for coming up and asking your questions. Very appreciated. Love that you enjoyed the gallery. Love that you enjoyed the artworks. And yeah, super cool. Um, but I guess, did you want to add anything else to that, Charisma?
I think we are done.
Okay, well, thank you, everybody. Otis, thank you, Charisma, all the other listeners. Hope you all have a great rest of your day, and we will see you at the next one. Take care,
Thank you,
my friends.
guys. Bye.
Bye bye.